The people that are not that good might be willing to accept the strangest things, right? Because they're not that good. They don't have many
Yeah.
options. They don't have a lot of leverage. I think people can lose sight of that, right? That this is a negotiation, and the talent out there, the best ISAs, which we try to attract and recruit, talent always has options. Talent always has options. All right, folks. Welcome back to Tuesday Topics. Every week on Tuesday, we set aside some time to talk about interesting topics that our clients either ask us about, or there are big questions that we've got, insights, pitfalls, best practices, all related to managing your own ISA. Everything from compensation to best practices, scripts, lead sources, hiring, interviewing, everything, right? So we go over every aspect of the process, and today's no different. Today we've got Timo from our customer care team here to talk about a topic that it's a really frequently asked question. It's a potential pitfall if it's not managed the right way. It is the ISA compensation package. Okay, compensation package, and I think Timo, the way I want to tackle this topic today is I want to talk about the initial offer, right? Because there's an offer made when you interview candidates, right? We make them an offer when you decide to hire them. You offer them the job, and you outline what the details of that offer are. But the compensation doesn't end there. That's not the only part of compensation. It's usually an hourly rate, right? A certain amount of dollars per hour, a certain rough bonus structure, something to build off of, but that's usually not the end of it. So, Timo, tell us a little bit about that process. How does that usually go in that initial part, and how do agents, talk about compensation moving forward?
Sure. Normally, it's about the just like you mentioned, hourly rate. Also, or sometimes that's the the only thing they do keep in mind. But also there has to be bonuses, which tends to be the most attractive part for the different ISAs.
Of
They're
course.
they definitely appreciate the salary, of course, but they of course also look for ways of increasing that income that they can get from a project, right? If be it appointments made or bonuses per closing, which tends to be the most common one. Those Let's say that's tends to be the most attractive part of the whole offer for the candidates. And of course, also if there is a reasonable or more flexible um, schedule, that also tends to be very attractive for the candidates. And
100%. You bring up a really good point, because schedule, right? Like the hours worked, days worked. That's a big important part of the offer. Time is money, right? Time is money, and people will trade time for money. And you can make a more attractive offer, right? Attractive comp package, depending on the offers. Can you give us an example of a really competitive schedule versus a less competitive schedule? What have you seen out there in the wild?
actually, I guess, well, it depends. If it's full time, the most common ones we see is um, the classic 9 to 5, for example. Uh, Also, of course, and this is something a lot of the clients do ask is, hey, is the ISA okay with just calling 8 hours straight, or do they need a break? Usually, it's better to just let them have probably like an hour long break, lunch break, sorry.
Yeah.
And that's actually going to make it even more efficient for them. Like, hey, you're not going to be sitting there 8 hours straight. You're going to be able to eat, to maybe take a look at something else, and just clear out your mind before you continue making phone calls, which in the long run tends to be more efficient than just staying there all day long at this point.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can go, I don't think anyone can go more than 2 hours at a time. Any calling session should not last more than 2 hours. It's not useful. You're not going to be your level, your energy level, productivity level on the first 20 minutes versus the last 20 minutes, is not the same, right? And if you're calling past a 2 hour block, a 2 hour time block, you're on fumes. I don't know what you're doing after that, right? So
Right.
this illusion that an ISA can do an 8 hour calling session, 8 hours of a calling session, is just not realistic.
Exactly. And some might be able to pull it off, but in reality, the productivity is going to be, well, it's going to be really low because people
Yeah.
get tired, it just feels like they're overwhelmed after a certain amount of time. Just like you mentioned, probably after 2 hours of constant calling, it does tend to get a little bit overwhelming. So, so yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
important to take a couple of breaks. And I understand also that especially for our clients, sometimes they're not going to be very happy with maybe letting go of a few minutes uh, multiple times in a shift in order for the IC to take a break. But in the long run, that tends to make the productivity even better, because
Yeah.
if the
And
IC
for
is
the
constantly
long
tired,
term, for the long
mhm,
term.
exactly, for the long term, and if the ISA is constantly tired, they're not going to be very productive. So that's something important to keep in mind as well. It's not just about the money, but also how well is every shift distributed in regards of time and activities.
Yeah, 100%. I think if you've got someone, making a gargantuan effort to get through the shift day in and day out, they're not going to last, even if they're doing well, they're not going to last in that role. You don't want someone to do an extraordinary amount of effort just to get through the day. Come on. That's not that the person, even if they're great, is not going to last in that job. They're going to look for a different opportunity where they can actually, get high energy, recuperate, and it's a difficult job. It's a difficult job, and slicing into smaller chunks is a key part of it, right? A break at least every 2 hours, 45-minute, 1 hour lunch break, then another calling session, and then another break. That's our recommended, sequencing, right? And it makes your offer more competitive. Same thing when we're talking about weekend calling, and we have a lot of campaigns and a lot of teams that do calling on weekends, mostly on Saturday. Some people will even do a Sunday. But I think people need to understand that that's just going to make their offer less competitive. It's going to make their offer less competitive. That's the reality of it. The best ISAs, and Timo, tell me if I'm wrong here. The best ISAs, the best people at this job want to work 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, or as close to that as possible. It can be more hours, actually, right? It can be it can be a negotiation, but they want to have office hours on a continuous chunk of time Monday through Friday. I think that's the preferred, by far, the preferred kind of a schedule. And I always tell folks, oh, but they'll talk to more people Saturday morning, Sunday morning. That is true. That I'm not going to argue with that. That more people will be home, more people will be at their phone, Saturday morning, Sunday morning. However, if you're only stuck with a person willing to work Sunday mornings, right, every single week, there's not that many people willing to do that. You're going to get stuck with the only person willing to do that kind of a schedule. That's not the best ISA out there, right? It's not the best ISA out there. And getting a better ISA beats everything else. And talking to five more people on a Saturday morning is not going to make up for you having a not very good ISA. It's not a smart trade-off, right? So we always tell folks there's other ways to do weekend coverage. You can alternate it with another person. You can have it every other week. There's ways to manage it. And once you get an ISA that's making money through bonuses, another big part of the compensation package, when they're making money through bonuses, Timo, they're going to be way more open to working Saturdays, right? If they can get more conversations and more money. Because it's not just about the hourly rate for them on a Saturday morning. It is about, can they get more bonuses? So if they get more hourly rate and more bonuses, then we can talk about Saturday calling. But that's hard to do initially. I tell folks, don't lose sight of the fact that this is the long game. Okay, this is the long game, and you shouldn't want to set everything in stone from day one. Get the ISA productive, have them get results, have them discover how much money they can make from bonuses, and then they're going to want to find ways to make more from those bonuses, and that can be calling on a high contact day like Saturday, I think.
Yeah, actually, that's part of something that's been, well, it started to happen a little more lately, but it's something very important you brought up. Weekends. Sure, a lot of people prefer to work, I'm sorry, to have weekends off, right? Um, my recommendation to our clients that absolutely need at least, or absolutely need weekend coverage is, let them have at least one day of the weekend off, and of course the next day off as well, because that's again, it's a little bit of negotiation. But if
Yeah.
that way they get some weekend coverage, and the ISA still gets that one day of the weekend off. They might want to spend it with their family, things like that, which is completely understandable. And in the end, that also is part of the just making the ISAs feel more comfortable and more motivated to continue producing. That's one thing. And then I've also seen some clients, not too many, but some that they might say like, okay, I need a like 7 day of the week coverage, right? And sometimes it's very understandable to feel like, oh, I'm barely starting with one because I'm trying out the project, etc. But sometimes trying to push those 7 days into someone, maybe even six, because a lot of people just come in with the expectation of working 5 days a week. That might be also a little bit of a drawback, or might push some people away. Like, oh, I thought I was gonna get a 5 day a week job, but that's not the case. Someone's trying to make me work maybe 6 days, maybe 7 days, because I have heard of that, and that
Yeah.
those cases I've had to negotiate with our clients to see a better choice in this case.
Yeah, it can be a very short-sighted approach. It can be a very short-sighted approach. If you're in it for the long haul, the best people want to have at least 2 days rest every single week, right? And they want a more competitive, compensation package. The best people, the people that are not that good, might be willing to accept the strangest things, right? Because they're not that good. They don't have many
Yeah,
options. They don't have a lot of leverage. I think people can lose sight of that, right? That this is a negotiation, and the talent out there, the best ISAs, which we try to attract and recruit, talent always has options. Talent always has options. So we try to advise our clients the best way possible to put their best foot forward, put forward a competitive offer. Timo, this is a lot like real estate agents that are working with buyers in a competitive market, like a seller's market, have to do the exact same thing, man. Every single time. They got to make sure that they are telling their clients how to put their best foot forward, how to get the best opportunity to get the best deal in this market. And sometimes the best deal in the market is just winning, right? That house. Just winning is a great deal because there were more people that wanted it, right? Because it's a great property. Same thing applies here. Getting a great ISA is the goal. And this is one of the biggest steps to get to that goal. And further along the compensation package conversation, bonuses, right? I mean that's like you said, the best ISAs have this in common as well. They're not just in it for the hourly rate. They do obviously everyone wants a competitive hourly rate. That's fine, and we always give people the range. It's going to be $5 to $7 an hour. Most people are at 6 right now, and you'll see that go up or down depending on the experience level for sure. But that's the range we normally see. But the best ISAs aren't in it for that. They can make that money anywhere. They can make that money at any job, right? 5, 6, $7 an hour. What they
right.
really want are those bonuses. Okay. And some ISAs have the goal, they want to make double their salary in bonuses. They want to make 50% of their salary in bonuses. They have these goals in mind, right? And a really competitive offer has a good chunk of that compensation is bonuses. So, Timo, what have you seen recently on the bonus side? Useful, creative ways that clients are bonusing ISAs to make these offers more competitive.
Definitely keeping a two-part bonus structure, because sure, like pretty much the standard one is okay. Every time we get a closing on a lead that you worked with, you're gonna get a bonus, right? That's pretty much expected. But then again, that's a little bit of a long-term goal.
It
Like it takes a
is.
while before that
It's
comes.
and
So
it's outside of the control of the ISA. ISA could have done a great job, and that closing is going to come 6 months later. And the ISA did a great job. They did their job. Awesome. Congrats. The team's going to get paid on that deal 6 months later.
yeah, exactly. And in order to keep the ISA, because that's a great goal, not to say that it's not something attractive. It's always good to feel like you have that purpose of, what, I'm connecting my agent with these leads, and they're gonna be, in a couple of months perhaps closing that deal, and the agent's gonna be able to get that commission. The lead's gonna be able to, get their home or sell their homes depending on what they're doing. But also keeping that like something short term, like, oh, can I see a return to my effort maybe this week, like something weekly besides those closings, tends to make the offer so much better for everyone in
Yeah.
general. They're going to be like, and again, this also has to be done with certain caution because you don't want to get them in the mindset of, you know what, I'm just going to send my agent a bunch of appointments. Doesn't matter what the quality is, just a bunch of them in order to get that bonus, right? So
Exactly.
there has to be
Exactly.
some, a few things to take care of in that part in order to make that effective as well, not just a bunch of appointments for the sake of it.
Correct. And you got to make sure, not again, not assuming that someone's going to do bad behavior, but again, these people are smart. Any system that can be gamed, we're in sales, right? Any compensation system, you want to avoid it being gamed. They don't want to game the system. You don't want to, if you're only compensating on set appointments, people can set a bunch of appointments. That's what you're incentivizing, setting as many appointments as possible. But what about how many quality appointments do you get, right? Do I prefer how many met appointments are you getting? I actually just had a conversation with one of our clients in Southern California, and I was actually impressed that they knew their numbers by ISA, and they were less. They were in the role less than a month. They had two of them, and they knew the numbers for each of them for their Met appointments right off the bat. As soon as I asked, that was impressive to me, right? Because not every team does that. Not every team has the discipline and the metric and the systems to know what appointment was set by the ISA, and then what was the outcome of that appointment. We're not talking about closed transactions yet. That's further along, but how many Met appointments? And one of their ISAs had a 60, almost 70% Met appointment rate, which is really good for internet leads. For internet leads, it's amazing. It's really good. Met appointment rate, right? So, and they wanted to make sure both of them were able to reach that same kind of level, if not higher, right? So that is a great way, and that's what they're going to bonus on. Met appointments, because they're calling a lot of internet leads. There's a lot of them coming in every week. Then they have I think, a 30,000 person database that they can call as well. There's a lot of things to call. They have no shortage of that, but they want to make sure that their ISA is not just setting a bunch of appointments, but they have a bar. They want 10, 15, 20 attended appointments a week, right? Because they have a massive amount of leads coming in. So that's what you should bonus on. And if you look at cold calling, very different setup right away. Very different cold calling than calling a bunch of inbound internet leads. It's harder to get them on the phone. It takes more work, more skill to convert from outbound cold calling. So the goal should be different. It should be qualified sellers. How many qualified sellers, qualified nurture leads, confirmed homeowner, confirmed contact information, interest, curiosity about selling. That's what I mean by qualified seller. They should bonus on that. And in some markets, Timo, it's going to be 3 a week. If you can get me
Yeah.
3 qualified sellers, that's great for them, because some of these price points can be $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. They're like, hey, give me 3 of those a week. I'm good to go. In other markets, I was just talking to one of our clients out in San Antonio, Texas. For them, a good week is 10 a week. 10 qualified
Yeah.
sellers per week. And sometimes smaller town in Texas, they can get up to 15 in a week, but 10 is their goal. They want to get 10 a week. Qualified sellers. Very different. Like, it's literally 10 times a smaller price point for some of these, smaller towns. So that makes sense. But the price disparity. But the goal changes too. You're not good. That's not good enough to do 1 or 2 a week in that price range. You got to get more. You got to get more. It's got to make up, right? The difference. So for them, they have a different goal. If their ISAs can hit 10 a week, they get an extra bonus. And they get, in another market, it might be 3 qualified sellers per week. And they get their bonus. But I recommend I really like that weekly goal number. Bonuses should be paid out weekly. It doesn't have to be the same as a closing bonus. I would rather take money away from the closing bonus and sprinkle it into these weekly bonuses on the leading indicators. Okay. Appointments met. When we're talking about internet leads. Qualified sellers generated when we're talking about outbound cold prospecting. And sometimes, Timo, it's a little bit mixed, right? It can be a little bit more complicated than just one or the other. And that's why I tell folks, let's jump on a coaching call and let's figure it out. If it's more complicated than that, right? But those are the 2 building blocks I like. How many qualified sellers did you bring to the table? How many Met appointments did you bring to the table on a weekly basis? Here's your bonus. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually what I tell their clients. It's really easy, and it's not to say that people are just gonna cheat the system. But in order to keep them from even considering the idea, it's better to just uh, use like the appointments, just like you mentioned. It's more about
Yeah,
those successful appointments rather than just set appointments, because the whole
absolutely.
approach changes. You actually do care about those the quality, and it incentivizes the ISAs to take more initiative in making sure that the agent is meeting with these people and not just, okay, I set an appointment for you. There are some reminders over there so that you can, you know, stay aware that you're gonna have to meet with them, and that's it. No, it's more about, okay, so did these people actually meet with my agent? If they didn't, then I'm gonna have to reach back and try to save that appointment, like try to reschedule. And that's, in my opinion, a lot more efficient. And that one, because of the extra effort, definitely deserves, a little bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all of these things make it make the offer more competitive, make the opportunity more competitive, and just you want them to stay, right? And then there's more to it. We talked about hourly rate, bonuses, schedule. Another part of it, for example, when we talk about those are the basis, that's the initial offer. That should be said. Maybe the specific goal for the bonus, you don't know it off the bat. You can leave that pending. But within a month, you should know what the goal should be, what their weekly goal is going to be, right? So that's one part of the compensation. And there's more to it, right? There's more to it. For example, some ISAs, they want at some point want to get paid time off. They want to get some vacation days. And what we recommend is we want to follow a model that's similar to what we have here in Mexico, where after the first year in the company, in the role, then they should have, 5, 6, 7 paid time off, days for paid time off. I think that's recommendable. I think that's very doable for most people. And by the way, here in Mexico, it's now 10 days, 10 working days after a year. Brand new employees after a year get 10 working days off, paid vacation. Not saying you have to do that, but that's what you're up against. That's the competition. That's what the competition is doing, right? So that's what you're kind of up against with an ISA. But I think it should be, even if it's not something you're going to enjoy right away, it's not something you're going to enjoy immediately. I think it makes the compensation package more attractive. If you include paid time off, hey, once you turn a year in the role, we're going to give you, 5 days paid time off. You can choose whenever you're going to take it, right? So I think that's a great way to kind of entice people, and make a better overall package. It's all part of even though you're not paying them out money, anything extra, it's time off. People will trade time for money. I think vacation time is a great one.
Exactly. And on top of that, also something a lot of people ask for is, what about the holidays? Because
True.
because in some like in some markets, I guess holidays are actually a good choice. Like, you know what, let's work the holiday. It's gonna be more productive. But then in some cases, it's like a lot of people are gonna be actually upset that you're calling them during the holidays.
It's
So
usually
having
not a great idea. It's usually not a great idea to call, right?
Yeah, exactly. And some ISAs are gonna be, actively asking, hey, uh, am I gonna be working those days? And then another important question, are those days gonna be paid?
$100%.
If I don't work, like, do I lose the day, or what's gonna happen? So those are some questions the ISAs definitely ask, and very,
Yeah.
very valid questions. So
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely also something to keep in mind, and that's gonna, again, that's not something that I would call mandatory,
No.
but it definitely adds up, to the whole, basically group of different benefits the ISAs can get.
Absolutely. I consider it a benefit, right? Hey, do we have, paid holidays in the US, right? A lot of people are kind of surprised by this, but there's no mandatory holiday rate, holiday pay, right? I think it varies. Maybe it's different in different states. I'm not an expert in that, but in some places, people get the day off. That's it. That's their holiday benefit. They don't work that day. They don't get paid that day, but they don't have to work that day. So I think it varies a lot, depending on where you are in the US. But when people ask me about this, should this happen? Should this not happen? I have a few rules of thumb that I like to tell people. I always ask them, especially if they want to ask their ISA to work, on a holiday, be it Thanksgiving or 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day. Christmas and New Year's is less of an issue, but it's much more of an issue on the other holidays. If they're going to ask their ICA to work that day, I always ask them, are you going to work that day? Right? Is the rest of your team going to work that day? Because the
Is it
ICA
a
should follow
productive day?
is it even a productive day? Correct. And you know what? I would take let's take the devil's advocate side. Let's say it's a super productive day if they call. Let's say it's an amazing day to call. It's a great day to call. People will be home. Let's take the devil's advocate approach. Is the rest of your team going to work that day? Is it just the ISA? Because that can antagonize someone. I don't think that's a great setup, to be very honest with you. I don't think you're setting yourself up to win if everyone's on vacation except the ISA. I don't think that's the right way to do it, me personally, right? And the other thing, if you're not going to have to work, let's say you're going to take the day off, does your ISA take the day off? I think that's better. Is it going to be a pay? I think the best thing you can do is give the day off and make it a paid holiday. Again, I think you should follow what you do for the rest of your staff. Is the rest of your staff going to have a paid holiday that day? Yes or no? I think you should, number one, match what you're doing for the rest of the team. I don't think the ISA should be different. They're also a member of your team. Make them feel that way. This is what culture means, right? Culture is
Right.
not morale events and board games and birthday parties. Culture is, how do you treat your people? Do you treat them as part of the team, or do you single out someone as something different? I think it matters. I think it matters a lot. And to me, it matters less. Is it the day off? Is it a paid day off? Is it a working day? It matters much more to me to what's the team doing? Is it a team activity, or is someone getting singled out or something different? I don't think being singled out is useful. I don't think that's a lasting relationship. I don't think that's a long-term thing. I don't think it is. And in the US, you have a lot of holidays too, right? There's a lot of banking holidays that people work. In the US, a lot of folks work on national holidays, Veterans Day, President's Day, Martin Luther King Day. A lot of schools
New
are closed,
Year.
banks are closed, but most people work those days. Most people happen to work those days, right? So the US is a
Exactly.
little bit different than other parts of the world where things just shut down, right? I know people that work in Europe or people that work in Latin America. When you have a national holiday, no one works on a national holiday, and maybe the supermarket chains and the restaurants will open that day, right? But they're under special labor rules that day, right? They got to pay
Right.
extra to get people to come in
Exactly.
that day. Otherwise, they're not going to come in that day, right? And they have to get paid anyway. So it is a very different culture in the U.S. It's very different from other parts of the world. The particulars aren't even that important to me. Do with your ISA as you would do with your team, as you would do with yourself, and I think that's the rule of thumb that I recommend. Do the same thing. Do the same thing, and that's more important than what the actual solution is. Because everyone loves paid time off. That's great. It's not always doable for every single holiday in the country every single time, right? But find something that works, because that can make the compensation package more attractive, or it can at least make it as competitive as anyone else, right? So I think that's the way I like to think about it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the main thing. And just like you mentioned, something key that you mentioned just a moment ago, they in the end, even though it's not necessarily like uh like same market or something like that, they do have to compete with what they can get in here.
Yes, they
And they get a
do.
they
Absolutely.
they get a bunch of, or because of that, I guess you may say, fortunately or unfortunately, some ISAs might have some higher expectations, like, hey, you know what, if I work on a holiday, just like you said, do I get paid more or do I get the day off? Because it's very common here. It's a different culture in the end. So that's also gonna be influencing, right? Of course, and this can also be addressed when offering or when making the job offer. But still, it's something to keep in mind whenever you're, especially if you get someone that you notice is really good, you know. And
Yeah.
in other cases, you might say, okay, you know,
It, it,
we'll
it it
think
is
about it in
worth
the future.
to accommodate. It is worth to accommodate. Giving someone, six, holidays paid time off during the year is like, it's like 10 cents an hour. Not even that. It's like 1 cent an hour throughout the year. That's what it costs you. An additional penny an hour. For a good person, is it worth it? Absolutely yes. And I'm not even talking about vacation. I'm talking about paid holidays, right? Paid holidays.
Right.
Easiest benefit you can give. The easiest thing you can actually do, because the cost is so low. It's just so low. It's like a few dollars extra per month, and just honestly, it's pennies when you look at it from the yearly perspective. I agree with you, Timo. I think that's a really easy way to make your offer much more attractive and the whole compensation package much more powerful. Those paid holidays off, right? And it builds a lot of goodwill, right? And it makes it. I frankly feel that it makes it a better place to work. And just being in the interest of full transparency, at Power ISA, all of our staff has paid holidays. We actually do. We have follow the U.S. calendar on holidays, right? We follow the U.S. calendar, and when we work our national, like Mexico national holidays, we will work those under the rules of the country, and we'll take time off, pay time off during the U.S. holidays, right? Because you got to have some time off. Let's be honest, right? You want a high performing, functional team, and I think that's the best way to do it. So I think that's how we do it here. And quite frankly, it's how I'd recommend most people do it. But I do recognize that people are in different areas, they have different expectations. But the ultimate point you want to make is think about these things, right? Because this is where your ISA is coming from. This is the custom that they're coming from in most cases. So you want to be cognizant of that. You want to be aware of it and adjust accordingly. And like Timo said, if you have a great person, you gotta be flexible with these things. If you got a great person, it's worth it. It is worth it. Very easy way to retain a really great person is by adding these little extras, benefits that they're to the compensation package. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's in reality, that's what's going to keep someone, because it's very important. And the aim for our service is to have, of course, someone long term. But that still depends on a few other factors other than just qualifying a person. It also depends a lot on the experience they're getting, and that even includes the different benefits they can get from the job.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Awesome. Timo, well, I mean that this is a great conversation. We hit a bunch of different topics, everything from the hourly to the schedule to the bonuses to the extras, around paid time off, holidays off. And there's more, probably more, but I think in the interest of time, I want to appreciate your time for coming in here and having this chat with everyone. Appreciate you, man. And I will see you here on the next one.